Will the real Kamala Harris please stand up? I love the Eminem pun, of course, had to do it to him. Here's what I want to say about this. In no way am I trying to hate on Kamala Harris in terms, well, I mean, I take that back. I am low-key hating on her. I have since she started running for office way back in 2019 when she announced her presidential run for the 2020 election. I was not the biggest fan of Kamala Harris. I still am not the biggest fan of Kamala Harris, even though she's the vice president. And let me present to you a kind of thought that I have right now. I feel like people are in love with the idea of Kamala Harris. They love the fact that Kamala is half Black, half South Asian, a strong, independent woman who supports the Democratic Party, which, let's be real, is the party that tends to be in mainstream media and supported by mainstream media. I think people love that idea of her. The fact that she's representing all of these different minority cultures, the fact that she's the first woman vice president ever, and these are all great things to want to establish. I also like the idea of Kamala Harris to an extent. Here's where I differ from everybody else. I don't think we really know who the real Kamala Harris is. She ran on a campaign back in 2019 and 2020, and obviously now she ran with Joe. She ran as this progressive candidate that was, as her motto said, for the people. When, ironically, according to several sources, when she was California's attorney general, which she was for a while, she was never really for the people. She really did a lot of messed up shit to incarcerated people, and also made a lot of calls that weren't necessarily productive, if that's the best word to say, to our society. And I have a couple quotes that I read from a New York Times article that I kind of want to mention right now. And this first quote is kind of about her criminal justice reform, something that I brought up for a little bit. So I'm going to read it right now. It says, time after time, when progressives urged her to embrace criminal justice reforms as a district attorney and then eventually the state's attorney general, California being the state, Miss Harris opposed them or stayed silent, wrote Laura Bazin. Most troubling, Miss Harris fought both tooth and nail to uphold wrongful convictions that had been secured through official misconduct that included evidence tampering, false testimony, and the suppression of crucial information by prosecutors on paying off crimes that her aides committed. Kamala Harris is your classic politician, according to this quote. I mean, she's paying off, people for her aides. She's more obsessed with her rep than actually helping the people, which is ironic because, again, her motto was for the people. That doesn't sound very for the people for me. And also another thing that I look at with politicians is the ability to change their mind, which is good. I want people to constantly be conversing and being like, oh, that's not right. I'm going to look into my stance on that and maybe change that, right? I feel like with Kamala Harris, there is a lot of flip-flopping, but it isn't necessarily for the right reasons. I mean, you could look at the death penalty. Her death penalty record is very, 50-50. It kind of goes for against. And she didn't really set a precedent in California when she was the state's attorney general for all of that stuff. And I feel like California is still in flux, and I feel like we'll always be in flux when it comes to the death penalty. It's a very interesting conversation if you think about it. But yeah, I mean, Kamala Harris has been very flip-floppy over the death penalty. And I mean, in terms of her character, I feel like she's just your classic politician. And I kind of have another quote that I want to talk about when it comes to that real quick before we move on to the last topic of the day. So here's the second quote. And this was written by someone who kind of knows her or knew her in a time in their lives and knew people that knew her as well, like her sorority. So I'm gonna read the quote. She's a daughter of two professors. She also went to Harvard and pledged, not Harvard. She also went to Howard and pledged Alpha Kappa Alpha. And I love them. I have many AKAs in my life who I love and adore dearly, but they are not typically the folks with their fists raised trying to beat down the system. They very much have a political ideology built on being twice as good and showing up in the crispest suit. What I have to say about this is very simple. I am not in no way trying to attack Kamala Harris's character. I don't know her as a person. Maybe she's cool. Maybe we love each other and hang out. She's from the Bay. I'm supposed to like her. Kamala Harris has everything that I like in a person. She's half Indian. She's like a minority. She's a woman. And She's from the Bay. I should, I want to like her. I want to. But here's the thing. I mean, quotes like this are literally just saying, like, she's your classic politician. She's out to win the game. She's not here to make change. She's not getting down and dirty and like wanting change and like, talking and having conversations about these things. She just wants to like stay back, make sure her hands don't get dirty. It's like House of Cards type shit where it's just like Kevin Spacey. I know he's canceled, but his character in the show is just like, I'm going to, do whatever it takes to play the political game. And I feel like Kamala Harris is that type of figurine. And I've always felt that way about her. And that's kind of where we're at.